Right now, somewhere inside your body, a quiet process is unfolding. It's one you rarely think about until something goes wrong. Every day, your digestive system finishes its work in a place called the rectum, the final stop before waste leaves the body. Normally, this happens smoothly, but sometimes stool doesn't move along the way it should. It stays, it settles, and it begins to get stuck. When that happens, your body doesn't just sit still and wait. A surprising chain of events starts taking place inside you, shifts in pressure, changes in your nerves, and a slow transformation of the stool itself. So what exactly happens in there, and why does the body respond the way it does? Before we go further, a quick note. This video is for education only, and it's not a replacement for guidance from a healthcare professional. With that said, let's take a closer look inside the body. To understand what goes wrong, we first need to understand the territory. So let's take a quick tour of the digestive system's final stretch. After food is digested and nutrients are absorbed, what's left over moves into the large intestine, also called the colon. The colon has an important job. It pulls water out of the leftover material, slowly turning a soft, liquid mixture into formed stool. By the time this material reaches the end of the colon, it's ready to be eliminated. The very last section of the colon is the rectum. Think of the rectum as a waiting room, a short, stretchy chamber only a few inches long that temporarily holds stool until it's time to leave the body. The rectum isn't designed for long-term storage. It's a holding area, not a parking lot. At the end of the rectum sits the anal canal, and guarding that exit are two ring-shaped muscles called sphincters. The internal sphincter works automatically, without you thinking about it. The external sphincter is one you can consciously control. It's what lets you decide when the moment is right. Together, the colon, the rectum, the anal canal, and these two sphincters form a coordinated team. And when that team works in sync, elimination feels effortless. So how is it actually supposed to work? In a healthy body, elimination follows a beautifully coordinated sequence, one that runs almost entirely in the background. It begins when stool moves out of the colon and enters the rectum. As the rectum fills, its walls begin to stretch. And built into those walls are tiny sensors called stretch receptors. Their job is simple but essential. They detect when the rectum is getting full. The moment these receptors sense enough stretching, they fire off a signal. That signal races along your nerves, up the spinal cord, and into the brain. The brain interprets the message and creates a familiar sensation, the urge. That feeling of "I need to go" is not random. It's your body delivering a precise status update. At the same time, the internal sphincter, the automatic one, begins to relax on its own. But the external sphincter, the one under your control, stays closed. This gives you a window of choice. You decide whether the timing works or whether you need to wait a little longer. When you do sit down to go, the rest falls into place. The pelvic floor muscles relax, the external sphincter releases, and gentle pressure from the abdomen helps move stool out smoothly. The whole system depends on good timing, stool arriving, the signal firing, and the body responding without delay. But what happens when that timing gets thrown off? Here's where the story changes. Sometimes stool reaches the rectum, the urge arrives, and nothing happens next. Maybe the timing is inconvenient. Maybe a bathroom isn't nearby. Maybe the signal just gets ignored. Whatever the reason, the stool stays put, and the longer it stays, the more things begin to shift. Remember that the colon is constantly absorbing water. That job doesn't stop just because stool has reached the rectum. So as stool sits there waiting, the surrounding tissue keeps pulling moisture out of it. Slowly, the stool becomes drier, harder, more compact, and often larger. This creates a frustrating cycle. The harder and drier the stool becomes, the more difficult it is to pass. And the more difficult it is to pass, the longer it tends to stay, which only gives the body more time to pull out even more water. Each hour that passes makes the next attempt a little tougher. Meanwhile, something else is happening with the urge itself. When you ignore that "I need to go" signal, your body doesn't keep shouting forever. After a while, the urge quietly fades. The rectum adapts to the fullness, the stretch receptors settle down, and the sensation backs off, even though the stool is still there. That fading urge can feel like relief, but it's not. It's the body adjusting to a situation that hasn't actually resolved. The stool remains, now harder than before, and the signal that would normally prompt action has gone quiet. So what does all of this do inside the body? Once stool becomes stuck and starts to harden, the body enters a chain reaction, one event triggering the next. It starts with stretching. The rectum is built to expand, but only so far. As hardened stool accumulates, the rectal walls are pushed outward and held in a state of constant distension. Picture a balloon kept partly inflated for hours on end. Over time, that sustained stretch takes a toll on the muscle tone of the rectal wall. That ongoing pressure doesn't stay contained. The rectum sits surrounded by other structures, and a full, distended rectum presses outward against them. This is part of why a person can feel bloating, heaviness, or general discomfort in the lower abdomen. The pressure is being shared with everything nearby. Next comes the nerve effect. Those stretch receptors that normally sound the alarm become less responsive when they're stretched continuously. It's a bit like walking into a room with a strong smell. After a few minutes, you stop noticing it. The receptors are still being stretched, but they stop sending strong signals. The urge weakens, and the natural prompt to eliminate fades into the background. Then there's the muscular strain. When a person finally does try to pass hardened stool, it takes real effort. Straining raises pressure throughout the abdomen and places stress on the pelvic floor, the sling of muscles supporting everything in that region. Repeated heavy straining can gradually wear down those muscles. That same straining and prolonged pressure also affect blood flow. The tissues lining this area are rich with small blood vessels. Sustained pressure and forceful straining can cause those vessels to swell and become irritated. So in just a few hours, the body goes from a simple full rectum to stretched walls, dulled nerves, strained muscles, and irritated blood vessels. And that chain reaction is exactly what produces the symptoms a person actually feels. All those internal changes don't stay hidden. The body translates them into signals, symptoms you can actually notice. And once you understand the physiology, each one starts to make sense. The most common is a feeling of fullness or bloating in the lower abdomen. That's the distended rectum and trapped stool pressing against neighboring structures. There's often discomfort or a dull ache, sometimes a sense of pressure that just won't ease. That comes directly from the stretched rectal walls and the surrounding tissue under strain. Many people also notice a frustrating sensation of incomplete emptying, the feeling that something is still there even after using the bathroom. That's the body accurately reporting hardened stool that hasn't moved. Appetite can drop too. When the lower digestive tract is backed up and distended, it can dampen the desire to eat, almost as if the system is signaling that it's already too full. Other cues can include lower back discomfort, a swollen feeling, and general sluggishness. These signals are the body's way of asking for attention. When symptoms are severe, persistent, or paired with anything alarming, that's a clear sign to check in with a healthcare provider rather than wait it out. If those symptoms sounded a little too familiar, you're not alone, and the good news is the body is built to bounce back. But before we get into the everyday habits that keep things running smoothly, there's something worth knowing about. Most people are taught that fiber is the answer to everything, but there's a different approach that's been quietly used for thousands of years. A simple, natural addition that's helped people gently clear out built-up waste and feel light and comfortable again, often within just days. No restrictive diets, no expensive probiotics, no complicated routines, just one small change. There's a short presentation that explains exactly how it works and why it's different from what you've probably heard before. If you'd like to watch it, just point your phone's camera at the QR code on the screen right now, and it'll take you straight there. You'll also find the link pinned right at the top of the comments, so you can tap it whenever you're ready. Take a look when you have a few minutes. It's worth understanding. And now, let's get back to how your body recovers. So let's walk through that recovery. The body is remarkably good at bouncing back, and in most cases, this situation can be resolved and prevented. Once stool finally moves through, the pressure lifts almost immediately. The rectal walls gradually return to their normal tone. The stretch receptors, no longer overstretched, regain their sensitivity and start sending clear signals again. The nerves wake back up, the urge returns to normal, and the whole coordinated system resets. The key to keeping that system healthy is supporting it day to day. A few general habits make a real difference. The first is hydration. Since the colon constantly pulls water from stool, having enough water in your body helps keep stool softer and easier to pass. The second is dietary fiber. Fiber adds bulk and helps stool hold onto moisture, allowing it to move through more smoothly. It's found in foods like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes. The third is movement. Physical activity helps stimulate the natural muscular contractions that push material through the digestive tract. Even regular walking supports this rhythm. And perhaps the most overlooked habit, responding to the urge when it arrives. Since that signal fades when ignored, answering it promptly keeps the natural timing intact and prevents the cycle of hardening from ever starting. These aren't complicated fixes. They're everyday choices that work with the body's design, keeping that final stretch of the digestive system running the way it's meant to. So let's bring the whole journey together. Inside the body, healthy elimination is a matter of timing. Stool arrives, stretch receptors fire, the urge appears, and the body responds. When stool gets stuck instead, that timing breaks down. Water keeps being pulled out, the stool hardens, the rectal walls stretch, the nerves grow quiet, and the muscles and blood vessels take on strain. But the same body that creates that chain reaction is also built to recover. With enough water, enough fiber, regular movement, and a willingness to listen when the urge arrives, the system stays in balance. In the end, it comes down to one simple idea. Your body is always sending signals. The more you understand them, the better you can respond.